morning, students. In the last lecture, we have seen life cycle of Plasmodium vivax, both man phase and mosquito phase. Right? The man phase occurs in the liver and RBC of man, but mosquito phase occurs in the crop of alimentary canal. Right? A life cycle is completed in both man and mosquito. Now we are going to discuss pathogenicity. Pathogenicity. What is a pathogenicity? Pathogenicity of Plasmodium vivax. Plasmodium vivax. The Plasmodium vivax causes benign tertian malaria. Benign tertian malaria. Benign means harmless. It is not so dangerous. It is not so dangerous, but tertian means the fever repeats in every third day. After 48 hours, the fever repeats. Right? The clinical symptoms. The clinical symptoms associated with this benign tertian malaria is bouts of fever. Bouts of fever. What is meant by bouts of fever? Bouts of fever means cyclical fever. Cyclical fever. The fever repeats at a regular interval. The fever repeats at a regular interval. There is a gap of 2 days. After every third day. Not after every third day. In the every third day, the fever repeats. So, cyclical fever, which is nothing but a bouts of fever. These bouts of fever exhibited in are associated with 3 stages. It is associated with 3 stages. What are the 3 stages? First one is cold stage. Cold stage. Chills and shivering, more shivering occurs during cold stage. Along with the chills, shivering, headache and giddiness. Headache and giddiness. What is giddiness? Giddiness, the head spins around. The head spins around. So, giddiness, headache, shivering and chills are associated with the cold stage. And second one is hot stage. High temperature. High temperature, around 1 or 2 degree Fahrenheit. High temperature associated with hot stage. During this stage, the rate of heartbeat increases. Rate of heartbeat and breathing rate. Rate of heartbeat and breathing increases. Increases. Hot stage is followed by sweating stage. The sweating stage is associated with profuse sweating. Profuse sweating, more sweating, more sweating. And the more sweating provides a cooling effect to the body surface. More sweating provides a cooling effect to the body surface and which reduces the body temperature. Which reduces the body temperature. Right? Yeah, these are the 3 stages associated with the bouts of fever. I think you understand. Now, in malaria patient, there are 2 important conditions we have seen. One is anemia and second one is splenomegaly. Splenomegaly. These 2 conditions seen in chronic malaria patient. Chronic malaria patient. What is meant by chronic? Prolonged. The fever repeats prolonged periods. The fever attacks many times in that person. So, in chronic malaria patient, anemia, deficiency of iron. Deficiency of iron. Deficiency of iron leads to anemia. In this condition, generally blood cells, RBC, are going to destroy. Splenomegaly means enlargement of the spleen. Enlargement of spleen. Do you know what is spleen? Spleen is a largest lymphoid organ. It is a lymphoid organ. Lies in the left abdominal cavity, just beside the stomach. Just beside the stomach, dead RBC are going to destroy in the spleen. The spleen is called as a graveyard of RBC. Splenomegaly is seen. Why? There is a splenomegaly in chronic malaria fever. In repeated attacks of malaria, the spleen shows enormous immune response. It shows over immune response. It shows over immune response. Because of over immune response, the spleen enlarges. The spleen enlarges. The enlargement of the spleen is nothing but splenomegaly, which is associated with a chronic malaria patient, right? Now, tropical splenomegaly syndrome. Enlargement of the liver, not liver, spleen. The enlargement of the spleen is nothing but splenomegaly. The splenomegaly is seen in chronic malaria patient. Actually, that condition is called as a tropical splenomegaly syndrome. Right? It is also called as hyperreactive malarial splenomegaly. Hyperreactive malarial splenomegaly. In this condition, there is a immunological overreactive due to repeated attacks of malaria infection. In this condition, there is a immunological overreactive. The spleen shows abnormal immune responses due to repeated attacks of malaria. Immunological overreactive due to repeated attacks of malaria over a long period of time. This condition is seen in malaria endemic areas. It is very common in malaria endemic areas like Africa and Indian subcontinents. Endemic means, the term endemic refers. For example, there are some endemic species like kiwi in New Zealand, kangaroo in Australia. The given species is restricted to a particular area. If any species is restricted to a particular area, that is called as endemic species. But here, in this case, we are talking about malaria, no? So, the malaria is endemic to certain areas, means it is frequently seen in these countries like Africa and Indian subcontinents like India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, Maldives. These countries comes under Indian subcontinents. Are you understand? So, this tropical splenomegaly syndrome, it is seen in malaria endemic areas like Africa and Indian subcontinents. Now, hypnozoites. What are hypnozoites? Some of the stages of macrometacryptozoites. macro meta cryptozoites. These macro meta cryptozoites are the end stages of exoerythrocytic cycle. Exoerythrocytic cycle. We have discussed pre-erythrocytic cycle, exoerythrocytic cycle in man phase. So, some of the stages of macro meta cryptozoites are remained as dormant stages, a very important word, remained as a dormant stages in liver. What is meant by dormant? Dormant means resting stages, resting. So, these macro meta cryptozoites are remained as dormant stages in liver. The reactivation of these macro meta cryptozoites leads to new malarial attack. Reactivation. When these macro meta cryptozoites are reactivated, they continue the further cycle and again forms the macro meta cryptozoites and micro meta cryptozoites. The micro meta cryptozoites enters into the blood circulation, attacks the RBC and repeats erythrocytic cycle. At the end of erythrocytic cycle, erythrocytic merozoites along with scuffnodots and one more thing, hemojoin. Hemojoin and scuffnodots are released into the blood circulation. When hemojoin and scuffnodots are released into the blood circulation and malarial symptoms appear. So, the reactivation of macro meta cryptozoites repeats the new malaria fever, a new attack of malaria. This condition is called as relapse of malaria. Relapse of malaria, reactivation of malaria due to the macro meta cryptozoites, right? Now, there are some people, those are immune to malaria. Immune to malaria. Immune to malaria means, what is immune? Resistance. They have resistance against the malaria. These kind of people are seen in Africa. Sickle cell genes. Actually, there are two alleles associated with sickle cell anemia patients. These are nothing but sickle cell genes like HBS. If these two alleles are present, those are called sickle cell alleles, then this is called homozygous recessive condition. Homozygous recessive condition. In this, malaria fever occurs. If the person is having homozygous recessive alleles, then such people are frequently suffering with malaria fever, because in this condition there are two sickle cell genes. There are two HBS. These are called as alleles. In 10th standard you have studied the two alternative forms of a gene are called as alleles. Here two alleles, HBS both are recessive alleles. In this condition, the person is going to have malaria fever. But one more condition also there. This is the first case now. Second case, homozygous dominant condition. These are not new words, you studied in 10th standard genetics lesson. Homozygous dominant condition, HBA. In this condition there is no sickle cell gene. See, normal person is a normal person. And third case, heterozygous dominant. In this condition, HbA, HbS. This is heterozygous dominant condition. HbA, the capital letter A is a dominant allele. It suppresses the recessive allele. Recessive allele is represented as S, but dominant allele is represented as A. So the dominant allele suppresses the recessive allele. This is called as law of dominance. This is called as a law of dominance. You studied in 10th standard. So the heterozygous condition provides resistance to malaria, because malaria is endemic, very common in Africa. HbA, it is homozygous dominant condition. Usually people are normal, but see here there is a sickle cell gene. Even though sickle cell gene is there in this condition, but such people are resistant to the malaria. So heterozygous condition provides resistance. This is the reason why some of the heterozygous sickle cell patients are immune to malaria. In this condition there are two genes, a normal gene and a recessive gene. What is that? Sickle cell gene also there, but the person is resistant to the malaria. You remember this. This paragraph was given in state textbook. Not clearly explained, just given as how the heterozygous people are resistant to malaria fever. Just given that sentence only. Now, prophylaxis. What is meant by prophylaxis? Prophylaxis means preventive measures. Preventive measures. What kind of preventive measures we need to follow to control attacks of malaria? To control attacks of malaria or to control attacks of Plasmodium species. There is a alkaloid named as quinine. Quinine is the alkaloid. You studied in 10th standard. There is a table, alkaloid tables. Alkaloids are the nitrogenous byproducts. These are the nitrogenous byproducts. But these are secondary metabolites, not primary metabolites. Plants synthesizes these secondary metabolites for defense purpose. This quinine is extracted from bark of Cinchona officinalis plant. Cinchona officinalis plant. The Cinchona officinalis plant provides this quinine drug. This quinine is a anti-malarial drug. It is the anti-malarial drug. Right. Next, by spraying DDT and BHC, DDT dichloro diphenyl trichloroethane, BHC benzene hexachloride, The benzene hexachloride and DDT both are insecticides. Both are insecticides which are used to kill insects. So we have to spray these insecticides at regular intervals in the pools, ditches, stagnant water bodies. For why? These insecticides kills insects. Right. Next case, by spraying pyrethrum oil. By spraying pyrethrum oil and kerosene. by spraying pyrethrum oil and kerosene on stagnant water bodies. Stagnant water bodies. One can kill insects. We have to spray these two things on the stagnant water bodies. These materials, these substances form a thin layer over the surface of the water, and thereby they prevent entry of oxygen into the water. And due to asphyxia, the insects will die. Particular insect larvae will die. It is easy to kill insects larvae than adults because larvae are swimming in the water bodies. Pyrethrum oil is extracted from leaves of chrysanthemum. Extracted from leaves of chrysanthemum. It is a flower. Next, by growing insectivorous fishes. Insectivorous fishes like gambusia. Gambusia is an insectivore which can eat insects. Insectivore means insectivorous fishes like gambusia. Gambusia is a freshwater bony fish. It is a freshwater bony fish. Gambusia is an insectivorous fish. We have to introduce insectivorous fishes into the stagnant water bodies. Now these fishes can kill insect larvae, and by growing one more organism like insectivorous plants. Insectivorous plants like Utricularia. These insectivorous plants can kill insects. Insectivorous plants are generally autotrophs. They can make their own food materials. But actually, these plants are growing in nitrogen deficient areas. So, in order to get nitrogen, they are eating insects. So, these are called insectivorous plants like Utricularia. So, by growing insectivorous fishes like gambusia and insectivorous plants like Utricularia, one can control insect population, and by using mosquito nets, mosquito repellents like All Out, Good Night. What is a mosquito net? So, by using mosquito nets, mosquito repellents, you can control mosquito population, because mosquitoes are the vectors for the spreading of malaria fever. So, we are getting malaria fever due to the bite of mosquitoes. So, if we control mosquito population, then there is no malaria. Now, we are going to learn a new parasite, that is Entamoeba histolytica. Entamoeba histolytica. So far, we have studied the life cycle of Plasmodium vivax. Now, the life cycle of Entamoeba histolytica. Let us go with the systematic position. Systematic position or taxonomic position. Taxonomic position means a classification. It belongs to phylum Protozoa. Subphylum Sarcomastigophora. Class Rhizopodia. Order Amoebida. Family Entamoebidae. Family is Entamoebidae. Genus Entamoeba. Genus is Entamoeba. Species Histolytica. Species is Histolytica. This is the systematic position or taxonomic position of Entamoeba is Histolytica. It belongs to phylum Protozoa, subphylum Sarcomastigophora, class Rhizopodia, order Amoebida, family Entamoebida, genus Entamoeba, species Histolytica. Right. The Entamoeba Histolytica is a histozoic and enterozoic parasite. Histozoic and enterozoic parasite. If the parasite lives in between the cells means within the tissue is called histozoic. If the parasite lives in the alimentary canal, that is enterozoic. So, Entamoeba histolytica is both histozoic and enterozoic. It is a microscopic. Unicellular parasite. Belongs to phylum Protozoa. Right, microscopic. But it is unicellular eukaryote. It has distinct nucleus. And one more thing, it is a monogenetic parasite. It is a monogenetic parasite. What is meant by monogenetic? It completes its life cycle in single host. What is the host? Man. Man is the host. It inhabitates. Inhabitate means place where it living. Where it is living. It inhabitates in large intestine of man. Large intestine of man. Right. Next one, mode of infection. Mode of infection is contaminated food and water. Contaminated food and water by fecal matter. Fecal matter means the feces eliminated by the way of anus of alimentary canal. So, the mode of infection is contaminated food and water by fecal matter. Right. And one more thing, there are two mechanical vectors. Vector is an organism which can merely transfers the parasite from one host to another host. Two mechanical vectors. The first one is housefly and cockroach. Houseflies and cockroaches acts as mechanical vectors. And the infective stage. What is the infective stage of Entamoeba histolytica? Tetranucleate cyst. You will understand, you will come to know what is a tetranucleate cyst very soon. The tetranucleate cyst is the infective stage of Entamoeba to man. So, this Entamoeba histolytica enter into the body of man as tetranucleate cyst. I think you understand. This disease is cosmopolitan in distribution, means it is seen in several parts of the world. It is not endemic. It is not endemic to any area. It is cosmopolitan in distribution. Very common in tropical and subtropical countries. Very prevalent in tropical and subtropical regions. This disease, rapidly spreads in densely populated areas, both rural and what is urban areas. What is that? Rapidly spreads in the densely populated areas, both in rural and urban areas. In Greek language, entos means within. Amoeba means change. Histos means tissue. Analysis means dissolve. Which means the n type of histolytica causes or dissolves tissue. It causes a change in the tissue. It causes a change in the tissue, or it dissolves the tissues. Right. Now come to structure. The life cycle of Entamoeba histolytica passes through 3 stages. The life cycle of Entamoeba histolytica passes through 3 stages. First one is tropozoite stage. Second one, pre-cystic stage. And third one, cystic stage. Tropozoite, pre-cystic and cystic stage. These are the 3 stages we have seen in life cycle of Entamoeba histolytica. Histology means the study of tissues. Histology means study of tissues. So the species name indicates it is a histozoic parasite. Come to the structure of tropozoite. Structure of tropozoite. Tropozoite is a very active, motile, feeding and pathogenic stage. See, very important terms, very active. There are 3 stages now in the life cycle of Entamoeba. Out of these 3 stages, pre-cystic and cystic both are non-motile, but tropozoite is motile, it can move and very active. Feeding, it feeds on contents of the host cells. It feeds on the contents of the host tissue cells because it is a histozoic parasite. And a pathogenic stage, this stage is associated with the occurrence of pathogenicity or disease. Pathogenic stage means it causes a pathological effects. It is associated with the appearance of pathological effects in the tissues. Right? And come to the diagram. Yeah, this is tropozoite. It is motile now, it can move by using a single blunt finger-like pseudopodia. Pseudopodia are the locomotor organelles. In certain protozoans like amoeba, entamoeba, in entamoeba also pseudopodia is present. Pseudo means false, poda means foot. It looks like a foot, but it is not a true foot. It is a false foot. Pseudopodia is a false foot. So at the extreme anterior end of tropozoite stage, there is a single blunt finger-like pseudopodia, which is nothing but lobopodia. So pseudopodia is the locomotor organelle in tropozoite stage because it is motile. Now come to cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is divided into two types: outer ectoplasm and inner endoplasm. Inner endoplasm. The cytoplasm is divided into two types: outer ectoplasm and inner endoplasm. Ectoplasm is clear. It is very clear and non-granular. Non-granular. Viscous. It looks like a gel. Close-up toothpaste. Close-up, it's a gel. Very clear and viscous, sticky in nature. Non-granular. Non-granular means granules are the minute sand-like particles, but which are absent in the outer ectoplasm. Come to the endoplasm. Endoplasm is fluid-like. It is fluid-like. It is water-like with granules. Small microscopic sand-like particles are present in the endoplasm. In the endoplasm, ribosomes are present. Cartwheel-shaped nucleus. This is nucleus. Nucleus, ribosomes. Nucleus and ribosomes are present. So, in the endoplasm, ribosomes, nucleus and food vacuoles also present. These are the food vacuoles. Food vacuole. Food vacuoles, ribosomes and nucleus. Nucleus is vesicular. Vesicular nucleus. What is meant by vesicular? Vesicular means nucleus with nucleolus. With nucleolus. Nucleus with nucleolus. This is nucleus. But see, at the center of the nucleus, there is a nucleolus. Nucleolus. So, a nucleus with nucleolus and euchromatin. And it is composed of, nucleus is composed of euchromatin. Euchromatin is a true chromatin. It is a chromosomal material. It is a chromosomal material because chromosomes are present inside the nucleus. So, nucleus with nucleolus with euchromatin. Chromosomal material. This chromosomal material helps in a transcription process. What is meant by transcription? Synthesis of RNA from DNA. Synthesis of RNA from DNA. RNA again play a role in synthesis of proteins. Transcription means the synthesis of RNA from DNA. Yeah, this is about vesicular nucleus. But one more important point. In the tropozoite stage or in the Entamoeba histolytica, contractile vacuoles. Contractile vacuoles, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi complex and mitochondria. Mitochondria are absent. Mitochondria are absent. So, in the Entamoeba histolytica, contractile vacuoles, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi complex and mitochondria are absent. In the parasitic adaptations, we have discussed one thing: facultative anaerobes, obligatory anaerobes. Obligatory anaerobes. What is meant by obligatory anaerobe? for obligatory anaerobes, we have said one example, Entamoeba histolytica. Absence of mitochondria indicates obligate anaerobe. You know, mitochondria play a very important role in aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration. But due to the absence of mitochondria, it undergoes anaerobic respiration, obligatory. What is meant by obligatory? No oxygen is available for these pathogens. So they must survive under anaerobic conditions. It's mandatory. Their survival is mandatory under anaerobic conditions. So absence of mitochondria indicates its anaerobic nature. And one more thing, contractile vacuoles play a very important role in osmoregulation. But actually, very important description, contractile vacuoles present in freshwater protozoans. Present in freshwater protozoans. Because the contractile vacuoles are associated with expelling of more water from the body. But these contractile vacuoles are very important point, not related to this lesson, but from exam point of view, I am giving this. The contractile vacuoles absent in parasitic and marine protozoans. These contractile vacuoles are absent in parasitic and marine protozoans. Entamoeba histolytica is a parasite of man, so no contractile vacuoles. Contractile vacuoles are absent in Entamoeba histolytica, right? The Entamoeba histolytica secretes or releases one enzyme, that is histolysine. Histolysine is the enzyme which dissolves mucosa and submucosa of large intestine. Mucosa and submucosa of large intestine. The histolysine enzyme dissolves the mucosa and submucosa of large intestine. The Entamoeba histolytica inhabits in the mucosa, submucosa layers of large intestine. So this enzyme used to enter a parasite into these two layers of large intestine. Because of this histolysine, the species name was coined as histolytica. I think you understand. And one more thing, the histolysine protein dissolves the mucosa and submucosa layers now. During this dissolving, some amount of blood and tissue debris. Tissue debris means tissue waste is released. Some amount of blood and tissue debris is released. Understand? As you know already, the tropozoite is a feeding stage. It can feed actively on the contents of the tissues of large intestine. So, during the dissolving of mucosa and submucosa of large intestine, some amount of blood and tissue debris is released, and these two are ingested or eaten. These two materials are ingested by the tropozoite stage. That's why it is called a feeding stage. That is the reason why the food vacuoles are with bacteria. The food vacuole with bacteria. And food vacuole with RBC. Food vacuole with RBC. So the tropozoite stage ingest tissue debris, damaged cells, fragments of the epithelial cells and bacteria. So that is the reason why the food vacuoles of the tropozoite stage are with bacteria and RBC. I think you understand. Mode of nutrition. Mode of nutrition in Entamoeba histolytica is holozoic. Holozoic mode of nutrition. What is meant by holozoic? You know, it can eat both liquids and solids. It can eat both liquids and solids. Such kind of nutrition is named as holozoic mode of nutrition. And one more thing, how can we detect the trophozoite stage of Entamoeba? The trophozoite stage can be detected by the food vacuole with RBC and cartwheel shaped nucleus. Cartwheel shaped nucleus. So, how can we detect the trophozoite stage of Entamoeba histolytica? The presence of RBC in food vacuoles and cartwheel shaped nucleus. The presence of RBC in food vacuoles and cartwheel shaped nucleus, you know, based on these two structures, we can detect trophozoite stage of Entamoeba histolytica. It exhibits a holozoic mode of nutrition. So, it is a trophozoite stage. It is a trophozoite stage. Yes, students, please go through the video, watch the video carefully and note down the points in running notes. Only half of the portion of Entamoeba histolytica is over and the remaining portion will be continued in the next lecture. Thank you.